after my second treatment, I'm like, okay, I really feel good. And my third treatment, the next week, I ended up going down to I went to Savannah, Georgia, and played in a full rugby tournament. So it was just a testament to how great that is.
That's absolutely true. And, rugby's not, not a sport that can be taken lightly as far as contact and the explosiveness of that, especially when you had a hamstring injury. So that's a pretty big testament to SoftWave.
Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it.
On this episode, Into the Unknown, I am joined with a very special guest, Stacey Roberts. How are you doing today, Stacey?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely incredible. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
One of the ways I like to kick off the show is talking about the importance of networking. How are we connected?
So is it okay for me? Do I have your permission to say
Yes,
how we're connected?
yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Okay. All right. So you, Jeremy, have been a patient of ours at New Health and Wellness. You had an issue, orthopedic issue, and we helped you get better. And in doing so, learned a little bit more about your business. And we like to feature local businesses, as do you. So that's kind of how we got connected here.
It really is one of those incredible things, and I'm going to talk a little bit about SoftWave because I think I was up in Minnesota with some of my old rugby teammates, and I could not speak better words of SoftWave because I don't know how else I'd be playing rugby right now if it wasn't for that.
I love it. I love it.
And so it's one of those things I have to laugh because I was literally kind of doom scrolling on social media, and all of a sudden the SoftWave thing popped up, and it was talking about fixing, regenerating, working on those kind of deep tissue issues. And of course, I'm still struggling with my partially torn hamstring from 2024. I had done all the rehab to kind of get back to where I felt decent, but not enough to really feel comfortable, honestly, playing, even though I was playing anyway. It was one of those things that I was like, okay, let me look a little bit more into this, and that's how I found you guys, and it was absolutely incredible.
I'm so happy to hear that, and I'm happy to say that we have a lot of those testimonials. So it's definitely been a game changer for my life and my patients' lives and my practice.
It really has, and it's funny because after my first treatment, I honestly felt a lot better, but I was a little worried that it was this placebo effect that I just wanted to feel better, and so I didn't want to start going for runs and things like that, and so I gave it a few days, and that tiredness I had just wasn't there anymore. And then after my second treatment, I'm like, okay, I really feel good. And my third treatment, the next week, I ended up going down to I went to Savannah, Georgia, and played in a full rugby tournament. So it was just a testament to how great that is.
That's absolutely true. And, rugby's not, not a sport that can be taken lightly as far as contact and the explosiveness of that, especially when you had a hamstring injury. So that's a pretty big testament to SoftWave.
So I want to know a little bit more about you, Stacey, that comic book issue, that origin story. Who are you?
Oh, great question. So based on my background, do you want to start with my background in Milwaukee or background in my professional life? Where would you like to start?
Let's start with your background in Milwaukee.
So I grew up on the south side of Milwaukee, near about 28th and National, between Greenfield and National. So I was a South Sider for many years. I went to high school, all-girls school, St. Mary's Academy, which is no longer around, but it's in Bayview. Now I think independent living center or assisted living. And then from there, I was lucky enough to get a scholarship down at St. Mary's University in San Antonio, Texas, where back in the day, this is way back, Jeremy, back in the day, you could play more than one sport. So I was lucky enough to get a scholarship for volleyball and basketball, and then walked on the softball team as well, too. So it was a blast, but I also blew out my ACL when I was down there, and during the time I was pre-med, and I thought for sure that I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. But then when I was exposed to physical therapy, which initially, or interestingly, my high school guidance counselor said, you should really be a physical therapist. And I was like, no, I want to be a physical therapist. But I didn't know what it was until I had my ACL injury and surgery. And then I was exposed to physical therapy, sports medicine specifically, and fell in love with it. So after 3 years down in San Antonio, I transferred back to my hometown in Milwaukee and went to Marquette and got my physical therapy degree there and did a sports medicine fellowship afterwards. And then over time, just really focused on orthopedics. So you go from sports medicine to the larger field of orthopedics, which is all musculoskeletal health. And then gradually got into pelvic health and sexual health. And after a while, I got a little, what's the word? Not bored, but just wanted to do more from a hormone and gut health and diet point of view, because a lot of my patients were doing exactly what they were supposed to do in therapy, but they still weren't getting better. So I felt like there was a missing piece. So I went back to school to get my master's in nursing. So I got my bachelor's and master's in nursing. And then hopefully someday I'll get my nurse practitioner certificate as well too, because I just want to continue helping people find ways to live their life pain-free, or at least pain that doesn't, take charge of their life and they can't be as active. I want people to be as active as possible for as long as possible and know that pain doesn't have to be a life sentence.
What do you think, as you mentioned, you were a multi-sport athlete in college, what do you think really drew you to that next level, learning more about it? Because I know a lot of athletes do get injured, but not all of them go into that field right after. What do you think brought you even closer to that?
I think that my love of sports, number one, and then number two, my mom was a nurse, and I don't know if there's a genetic predisposition to going into healthcare when you have that in your family, but I would always seem to be fascinated with like how the body moved, like what was underneath. I remember like I would look at my hand and I would think, what are those things called tendons? What do they do? How do the muscles move our body? So it was just something that I knew at a very young age that really, really interests me. And I found to be just fascinating. And I still thankfully find it to be fascinating to today, almost 40 years later. So that's really, I think, that combination of being in sports, having that healthcare background in my family, and then really looking at it from a job point of view, very stable and something that I could grow into and also expand within. So all those things really help me, focus on that area for sure.
I think one of the things that I've gathered is, especially with what you're doing, is there's always new things to learn, which I think keeps it really exciting, keeps it interesting.
100%. That's me to a T. I'm constantly reviewing, researching, learning things. My friends are like, "What? Why are you so motivated?" And I guess I wouldn't necessarily call myself motivated, but I would call myself curious. So I like to think of things in my lifetime and in 10 lifetimes, I'm not going to know everything that there is about the body, but there's so much to know and so much to learn and so many pieces of the puzzle to put together that it still continues to drive me to this day to learn more.
So it's one of those things to go from, as just mentioned, graduating with that degree and getting to the practice. What got you into your own practice?
Oh, great question. So I lived in Australia for a while and I had my own practice out there helping. And this is kind of how I got into pelvic and sexual health. I was helping couples with fertility issues because when I moved to Australia, I couldn't practice directly as a physical therapist because I was I didn't qualify for a work visa at that time. My son was young. My husband at the time was working. So I came along on the spouse visa. But then I started to have my own health issues that conventional medicine, when I would go in, I'd be like, I'm tired. I always have to sleep. I have these dry patches on my face. I'm, constipated, you name it. And they would do my blood tests and they would go, oh, look, everything looks fine. You're good. And I'm like, I'm not fine. So conventional medicine, which I put all my eggs into that basket for so many years, wasn't able to answer the questions for me that I had about my health. And I wasn't satisfied with at that time being in my mid 30s and continuing my life like that. So then I got more into complementary and holistic medicine, alternative medicine, if you will, learn more about herbs and supplements and nutrition, and really started applying that to my own life and noticed some significant changes. And then during that time in Australia, I had the opportunity to purchase a clinic over there, helping men and women who, like I said, were having fertility issues and then optimizing their hormone balance naturally. And that I just took to that like a shark in water, or like a dolphin in water, I should say, and just absolutely loved it. So that's why I did that in Australia. When I came back to the U.S., as my parents were aging, I wanted to be closer to home, and people couldn't understand how a physical therapist really could do anything about hormones or understand hormones, or about, and people were very skeptical here in the Midwest about herbs and things like that, which I totally understand because I was the major skeptic myself. So I started working for a large corporation, being the director of operations, director of rehabilitation, and opening clinics around Wisconsin. And after I opened 11 of those clinics, or 9 of the 11 clinics that we had in Wisconsin, I said to myself, why am I doing this for somebody else? I want to do this for myself. So then I looked at opening a clinic, and at the same time, that's when I decided to go back to nursing school as well too. So the launching point from nursing school was my opening this clinic. In the meantime, I didn't know anything about SoftWave or Shockwave or anything. So that was introduced to me during nursing school. So the plan was to start a functional medicine clinic after graduating from nursing school. And what actually happened was I started a holistic pain relief center during nursing school. Well, I was going to school full time, and I would see patients, on Saturdays or on weekends or a couple times during the day. So it really became a big project that I didn't see coming, but I am so blessed to be able to say that every day I do what I love, which is taking care of patients and helping people help others get better.
There really is something to be said about doing what you love. That doesn't mean you love every second of it, but in general, to love what you do. I mean, this is next week will be my first full year, all on myself on Swick Media, and this last year, I mean, it's been the hardest year of my life, but it's also been like the most rewarding. So I think there is something to truly finding what you love.
Absolutely. And congratulations on that. It's a huge deal. And, it is like you said, you're not going to love every single second of it. There's times where, I think, okay, let me just take this hour by hour, not even day by day. But the payoff in that is really, again, fulfilling that curiosity that I have about the body, being able to disseminate that information to people and really see their lives change as a result. And then they can also help others change their lives too. Like, I mean, you're doing that with your podcast, right? Reaching out. I think you told me a story about your dad,
Yeah.
and finding an old friend of your dad's and reconnecting them just because you had the podcast. So I feel like with my podcast, Pain Free Formula, I'm able to do that as well, and maybe never meet the people that are listening to the podcast, but have the opportunity to maybe help them, or help them help someone they love.
I could agree more, and I think there really is something to be said about that complementary medicine. As we've talked about, I've played rugby the last 17 years, and of course, with 17 years of rugby, there's been a few injuries, at least once or twice. And one of the things I had always struggled with is I'd go to the doctor and they would give me some kind of prescription to manage the pain, but it's like I didn't want that to be a need for my life every time I'm injured. And so it's really where I started kind of looking at more of that complementary medicine, as I firmly believe the more traditional, if you will, medicine does have its place and its value within, obviously within the world, but finding those ways to keep playing, keep doing the thing I love as long as I physically can, I think it really opened my mind and I guess my interest in learning more about those different versions of complementary medicine, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And, if I break a bone, or if I have, an emergency, or my mom had a stroke, a year and a half ago right in front of me, I'm not going to give her a bottle of herbs or tell her to take some supplements to get better. I'm getting to conventional medicine ASAP to take care of business right away. But when it comes to the things like that you were talking about with your hamstring, or I've had issues in my life with back pain and things, when we're talking about those things not getting better, and you have tried all the things within the normal conventional medicine, or you don't want to, like, you didn't want to take the medication forever. I didn't want to have surgery on my knee. But to know that there are alternatives out there that are complementary and help to support you and your health and move you forward. Regenerative medicine is one. I mean, to have those options, we are really blessed to have those options. And especially if I like to say, I have one foot in conventional, one foot in complementary, so that I can help coach patients as to what they might need. I'm not against medication or surgery. So if a patient, needs that, or wants to go in that direction, I'm supporting them along the way, but potentially minimizing the amount of medications that they would need, because we do know that certain medications actually slow down healing, actually decrease the ability for the body to heal, and actually can increase pain. Even some of the pain meds that we take, or anti-inflammatory medications that we take them too long, they actually can make us hurt more. It's called hypersensitivity to pain, or pain is actually heightened when they wear off. So, and we know also that those things affect our kidney and our liver, things like that. So, if we have an alternative that is better for us and allows us to achieve our goals, why not utilize that? As long as it's based in also science and research, which I'm a big into evidence-based medicine and intervention. So I think that's important too.
So take me through. You mentioned you were working full time nursing school as you're opening a clinic, and of course, as you mentioned, you had opened several clinics prior. But what was that feeling when you actually opened your own?
I tell my friends the story. When I first saw the space that we were going to utilize the clinic for, this is after we tested it out. I rented a room in one of my friends' clinics just to see if it would work, right? That she was lovely enough to give me a start in a room in her clinic. And people really took to SoftWave and the way that we do our manual therapy and functional medicine. So when I opened the door to my actual clinic now, I just remember looking through the glass doors, and I kind of get choked up now when I talk about it. Looking through the glass doors, and a tear came to my eye and just said, this is it. This is the dream that I've been looking at for years. And right, it was right there in front of me. And I'm lucky to be able to say I'm living the dream. So from that standpoint, I just really feel blessed.
Now take me through what made you launch a podcast.
Great question. So I told you I do a lot of research, and I would find these kind of little tidbits, and I'd share them with my patients. But that was only sharing with a few people that I would see if it was relevant to them. But I would save these articles, I'd save these research papers, and I would think, how can I get this information out to more people? More people need to know this. So after I wrote my book, The Pain-Free Formula, solving the puzzle about muscle and joint pain without surgery, drugs, or injections, I thought, how am I going to get even more that I wanted to put in that book, which is already 300 and some pages, out to the public? So I went from that book telling my story about how conventional medicine dealt with my knee pain, and how I wanted to let people know there's another way for muscle and joint pain to be addressed if they want that route. And then I thought, how am I going to get this other information out to people? And that's when the podcast came to be. I thought, okay, well, I can continue to let people know, because there's really an unlimited amount of information about how to address pain, and both from a physical, a physiological, and emotional point of view, or biopsychosocial now is kind of the term that's coined right now in regards to dealing with pain. So that's really what prompted me to do my podcast, is to just get the information out to as many people as possible.
And I assume as the podcast evolved, how did it start to become more local and small businesses as well?
Yeah, so that's been a little pet project of mine, because there's so many great businesses out there doing great things for people. So what I wanted to do is have an excerpt, or some episodes where I'm focusing on those in the Milwaukee area that do complementary things to what we do, and that are really doing their best to help others and support the areas that we focus on, whether it's gut health, whether it's physical exercise, whether it's different dietary things, whether it's hormone type stuff, any of those things that help to support other people. I wanted to shine a light on those businesses locally, because it's tough. Small businesses, it's not easy. The last 5-6 years have not been easy. They've been rewarding, but they haven't been easy. So if I can help shed some light on those businesses, and people understand there are other options out there, then again, that helps my business, but it helps me from the standpoint of feeling good about also kind of holding hands with other people out there that are trying to do the same thing that I am and survive with a small business in this day and age can be a challenge. So we can help each other out. I think that's the main thing, right?
Yeah,
that's why we're here.
Exactly. On everyone's journey, Stacey, you make a decision not really knowing the outcome. Can you give me a time where you just went for it?
Oh gosh. Well, when I first heard about SoftWave, so my friend came up to me and said, there's this thing called SoftWave. A guy in Madison has one, and I want to see if it works for my shoulder. And she showed me a picture of it. She took me to the website and she's like, what do you think? You're a PT. Have you heard of it? I was like, no. She's like, do you think it's going to work? I'm like, no, I don't see any reason why that is going to do anything whatsoever. She said, would you just come to the appointment with me just to, give me your opinion after seeing it? And I was like, well, will there be a free lunch? And she's like, yeah, I'll take you to lunch. And I was like, okay, I'll go. So I went along and I was, probably, I tend to be a more optimistic person, open-minded, but I was really skeptical. I was sitting there with my arm folded in the chair, just waiting for it to be over, basically chewing on the celery and hummus that I had in front of me. And when he turned on the device and he put it on my friend's shoulder, now mind you, my friend had shoulder pain for a while. I had helped her get it to the point where she didn't have any pain for the majority of things that she did, but if she slept on it wrong or she had her arm way behind her back, like doing, trying to reach a ball for pickleball, she would end up having pain and she wanted to get rid of that pain. So the guy really didn't know anything about her background or diagnosis. She just said, she just told him she had shoulder pain. So when he put SoftWave right on the area in the front of her shoulder, she all of a sudden went, oh, wait, that's the pain that I typically have. Now, again, mind you, she never had that pain unless she was lifting her arm up. And this was her arm at her side. And it was still was able to hit the spot that caused her the normal pain. And from a physical therapy point of view, that's huge because what we try to do is figure out what structures are involved with the patient that we're dealing with. And if we can recreate the pain, not from a standpoint of trying to be mean, but from a standpoint of going, okay, these are the structures that are involved that we need to treat, that's huge. That gets us to the patient's goals much, much faster. So after the treatment, she raised her arm up over her head and she goes, it's gone. And I'm like, okay, whatever. We'll see in a couple of days. It'll be back, which is not that unusual, right? With SoftWave itself, it lasts for a few days at first, and then the next time it lasts longer, and the next time longer, and the next time longer. But hers, she never had any pain until 2.5 years later. So once I was able to dive into this research about this device, and it was during COVID, so I had some extra time. That's when I just said, I'm going to go for this. So I didn't have the money to be able to buy it. So I took a big chance in regards to a loan, but I believed in it so much and recently just paid off that loan. But I believed in it so much based on what it could do. That's when I just went for it and said, we're going to do it. We're going to see if it works, and I'm going to help as many people as I can with it.
That's incredible. And to the listeners, I promise this isn't a sponsored by SoftWave podcast, but it was such incredible. Like I did not, I know, right? I did not know how well that would actually benefit me. As I mentioned with the hamstring, I'm sure you've seen I showed you the photos and all that. It was pretty gnarly, and it was just to have that quickly, and then after a few treatments, have it to be basically pain free. Of course, it gets a little tired after playing a full match, but in general, it still feels great, and that's just one of those, I guess, amazing advancements in technology.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to hear that for you. That's just awesome. It really is.
So, title of the podcast: Into the Unknown. What are you working on now? What do you have going on in your life?
So I'm helping SoftWave with its research because I do want to get the information out to more people, more physicians, more physical therapists, more people around so that they feel confident to utilize something like this, because it's only really been popular in the outpatient world for about 5 years or so. So we need more data. So I'm helping them with that. I'm also doing workshops on shockwave in general, teaching people how to do that, putting together other workshops on just for therapists about how they utilize, how they potentially can utilize functional medicine. So I have some workshops on MedBridge, which is an educational platform as well too. And then I'm always thinking about, what can I put on that Pain-Free Formula podcast to help again, more people, have more guests. So if there's anybody out there that's interested in talking about their situation on that, please reach out. And just really getting our clinic to the point where we're going to be hopefully hiring another person. We brought on Dr. Olson, who you worked with, and she's incredible. And now she's very busy. So we're looking at potentially adding in either a nurse practitioner or another physical therapist, and continuing to expand our clinic so we can help more people.
That really is exciting. If people are in the Milwaukee area, where can they find more about your clinic specifically?
Sure. So our clinic name is New You, Newyu, Health and Wellness. We're in Wauwatosa, kind of on the border of Milwaukee and Wauwatosa on 109th and Bluemount. They can go to our website, newuhealthandwellness.com. That's all spelled out. Or they can give us a call at 414-299-8121 or reach out through the podcast or, my book is available. The Pain Free Formula is available on Amazon.com as well.
Well, Stacey, I want to thank you again for taking the time to talk with me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Jeremy. I always enjoy conversations with you. It's fun to learn about how well you're doing now, and fun to learn about your background. And like I said, I couldn't be happier for you that you are doing what you love, especially for these last 12 months. So good job.
I appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
Another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.